Welcome into BLTV Channel 6. I'm Brian Kell. We have reached out to many candidates throughout our service territory area at Ben Lomond and some of the hotly contested races that are going on, and we have one of those candidates here at this table right now. He is Chris Stanford. He's running for district attorney in the 31st Judicial District, making up Warren and Van Buren counties. Chris, welcome in.
Hey, thank you for having me, Brian.
You're welcome. Tell us about you.
Okay, well, I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, moved to Warren County after 7th grade. I grew up in the Vervilla community and attended Morrison Elementary School in 8th grade. After that, I went to Warren County High School and graduated in the class of '99. I grew up in this area working locally on nurseries and farms. I also enjoyed playing football, basketball, and tennis during my teenage years, and I have very fond memories of my time growing up in this community. I also have fond memories of my time spent in Van Buren County as a teenager. I grew up with a lot of friends from that area, and I spent time milking cows on cattle farms and riding four-wheelers, hunting and camping, fishing, doing all sorts of fun teenage boy things that I enjoyed during my time in Van Buren County. After I graduated high school, I went on to University of Tennessee at Knoxville, and then later went to the Appalachian School of Law and got my law degree. I became a licensed attorney in 2007 and moved back to this area to raise my family and open my law firm in 2009. Currently, I'm the owner of a very successful local law firm called the Stanford Law Firm. I own and operate that law firm with my wife and law partner, Christina. We have two office locations, one here in McMinnville and one also in Manchester. Both are very successful, and I'm very proud of that business and what my wife and I have been able to build with the help of our staff and other attorneys. I'm also a devoted husband to my wife, and I want to thank her right now and take this opportunity to tell her how much I appreciate her love and support through everything, and particularly this campaign season. I would also like to tell you and introduce you to my four boys. I've got a 4-year-old named Eli, an 8-year-old named Andrew, a 12-year-old named Owen, and a 15-year-old named Ethan. The reason I'm running for this office is because of that family that I'm raising in this community. I believe that God gave me certain talents as a trial lawyer, and I'm going to use those talents before I go out to make sure that this community is as safe and prosperous and vibrant as it can be for my family and your family and for all future generations to come in this area.
What are your recommendations for increasing successful prosecutions?
I could go on for hours, but I'm going to try to keep this brief, okay? I really think that we've got to start with repairing broken relationships between law enforcement and our local district attorney's office. Not all of those relationships are awful and terrible and broken, but there are several that I believe need repairing, and I'm going to start there because successful prosecutions start with a sound investigation. And unless you've got your team of local law enforcement working with you and plugged into the processes at the district attorney's office, I don't believe that your officers are going to be able to put together the case file that we will need at the courthouse to ensure that we have a successful prosecution. In addition, the law enforcement officers on the street are best suited to make sure that we understand what's actively going on in our community. We're over at the courthouse every day, and we're not on the street actively investigating these criminals. They are. They know day to day what's been going on, so we need that valuable input from them, and that's another benefit to plugging them into our processes at the district attorney's office. We'll also be implementing new training programs for law enforcement officers designed to do what I just told you, and that's to make sure that we have our cases made properly, the investigations are sound, and we don't have any holes in these cases. I also want our lawyers to be prepared to try jury trials. When you become a lawyer, they teach you a little bit about how to try a jury trial or a bench trial in law school, but not much. You learn on the job. And sometimes you teach yourself bad habits, and sometimes you teach yourself really good habits. And I think training our lawyers to be more skillful trial lawyers will certainly increase our rate of conviction in true cases that we should obtain a conviction. I also, and this is probably the most important part of what I want to say, we have got to get legitimacy back into our local government, and particularly our criminal justice system. When people perceive that there is a good old boy system and certain people are treated differently based on how much money's in their bank account, based on what their family name is, based on who they are, who they know, who their friends are, when people perceive that, they lose faith in our ability to protect them, and that is not okay. And that will stop when I get into office. We will prosecute everybody fairly. We will treat each case with seriousness and fairness, and we will hold no bias or prejudice when we evaluate these cases. We will simply do the right thing every time. And what's interesting, Brian, that's exactly what justice is. Justice is finding the truth and then doing the right thing based on that truth. And the right thing to me is acting with my Christian conservative principles to make sure that through that filter, I maximize the safety of our community. And I believe acting with those principles, I'll be able to maximize the safety in our community and increase quality of life for all of us.
Which procedures would you implement to address criminal prosecution backwash?
Sure. You know, we've all experienced the COVID pandemic, and it has created in the court system, you know, a similar problem that we see all across the world right now, which is a backlog in cases in the court system. So that is certainly a problem that we have to address. You know, here's the thing. We've got to understand that the prosecutors in the criminal justice system hold the key to making sure that these cases are efficiently processed through the system. I'll tell you a little war story here. A recent case that I handled with the office here, I asked for discovery right after my client was indicted, and it took me 6 months to get my discovery back from this office. That's inexcusable. When I am elected to be the district attorney, we will have self-imposed discovery deadlines wherein we will produce discovery promptly and timely. Another problem that we have here that I want to remedy, and I believe it will help address this backlog, is we have people who are being indicted and being presented to the grand jury, and we don't know whether it'll be this grand jury, the next grand jury, the next grand jury before this person comes out. That's not really my concern for the defendant, although if they are being held without bond, it could be a constitutional concern, but it's particularly a concern for these victims who are waiting on justice for their families. And if we've got indictments that are sitting for 2 and 3 and 4 months inexcusably, that's a problem. We've got to shore those things up, and I believe that our system will work well together. And I want to finish by saying, the judges, the DA, and the public defender have all got to work together to tackle this problem. We've all got to sit down, and we've got to find extra days in the week, if needed, to alleviate this problem. We need more court dates, and some of that may be that we need a new judge, but I don't know. I just know that at the end of the day, we've all got to work together, and we've got to have a plan to address this backlog that we've got in our system, because it is truly becoming a very serious problem.
As district attorney, how would you handle fatal use of force, a type of incident involving local police? Sure.
Well, nobody is above the law. Our local police officers will be held to the same standards you and I are, Brian. So I want to start by saying that. But procedurally, how it works is my investigators at the district attorney's office, I will have 2, they will respond to the scene immediately. They will make sure that local law enforcement kind of stays away from any evidence that might need to be collected. They will secure any evidence that needs to be collected while we are waiting on the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations to come in and investigate the case for us. We have to use TBI to investigate local fatal use of force incidents involving law enforcement officers. Once the TBI conducts a full investigation, I will look at that information and I will determine whether or not I need additional information, or if I have enough information to make my decision about whether or not that was an appropriate use of force by that officer. If it was an appropriate use of force by that officer, I will defend that officer to the end of the day, and you will not see me shake on that, I promise you. If that officer has done something wrong and has violated the law, we'll evaluate the facts of that case, and we'll decide what, if any, charging decisions need to be made for that officer. But certainly, one thing that I don't think many people think about when an officer is involved in a fatal use of force, these guys don't run around looking forward to shooting people. It's very, very traumatic for them. So what I want to make sure that we have in place are some good counseling and other support systems in place for any officers who's involved in that and experienced that trauma of taking another person's life. We need to support them too and make sure they have the mental health resources to be able to continue to do their job at a very high level.
What do you think is the most effective way to deal with low-level drug offenders?
You know, low-level drug addicts, people who are merely users of drugs, I think a lot of times are perfect candidates for our rehabilitation programs and our drug court programs. We have these programs in place for qualified defendants who are not violent defendants, who truly need help, they want help. We know, as studying this over the years, we know that once a defendant enters into drug court, they are going to fall off the wagon 9 times out of the 10, at least once, if not twice, if not more times. I understand that and I recognize that, and I want to give every person who is trying to conquer that horrible disease the opportunity to do so. But the help is not limited. When you hit a certain point and you keep doing wrong, I'm going to take you out of that drug court program and we're going to do something different with you, and it's going to be more severe, okay? Also, I want to mention that I think drug addictions are largely fueled by mental health conditions that go untreated. We have a mental health crisis in this country that is growing beyond the scope of what our system can handle. And if there are those resources and I notice a defendant who has a mental health issue, I'm going to try to get them that help, because I believe if we treat the mental health condition the safe way with pharmaceuticals that are designed to do that, and with a doctor who's prescribing those, then we might alleviate the need of some of these drug addicts to self-medicate with street drugs. And so I want to try to work creatively with our defense bar to find ways to get these people the help they need on the mental health side as well. Low-level drug dealers can also be very useful in helping us find the higher level drug dealers and drug traffickers. So you're going to find with my administration that there aren't going to be very many free lunches. If you've committed a felony offense and you expect to have your case resolved very favorably in your favor, you better get used to the idea that we're going to need some information from you. These drug addicts know where they bought their drugs. They know all the players in the game. That can help us secure search warrants. That can help us arrest others who might be more serious drug offenders, and we need to do those things. Those are tools that need to be used in this office immediately. Our plea offers right now are very generous, in my opinion, and they don't give a lot of incentive for these defendants to do that work that I just talked about. So instead of a 6-month sentence in the county jail or a 1-year sentence in the county jail for somebody who's running from the police with a pound of meth, we're going to try to send them to prison. We're going to make sentencing recommendations to the judge designed to get them out of our county and incarcerated for as long as possible. Because it's no secret, folks, if I am successful in incarcerating somebody just a little bit longer, that means that you and I are safer just a little bit longer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's my idea on how to handle low-level drug offenders, but also some of our higher-level drug offenders can be affected by what we do, the work we do with our lower-level drug offenders.
About 30 seconds.
Yeah,
So
sure.
Feel free to address the person out there watching as to why you're the best person to be district attorney.
Absolutely. During the nearly 15 years that I've been a lawyer, I've successfully tried hundreds of bench and jury trials across this state and even in other states. I love being a trial lawyer. It's what I have a passion for. They say if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I feel that way because I love being a lawyer. I'm applying for this job because I want to be the district attorney. I want to be a great district attorney that keeps us all safe. And again, our society and our community is in trouble right now. And I believe that we need that DA who wants to be the best they can be, who wants to stay here in our borders and make sure we are safe. This isn't a job that Nashville voters elected us to do. This is a job that Warren County and Van Buren County voters elected us to do. And I take that responsibility very seriously. I will be here trying jury trials. I will be here managing my staff, and I will be here making sure that all of us, our families and your families, are as safe as they can be.
Chris Stanford, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.